This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today we're going to talk about a little bit of pain, hey? A little bit of pain. It's one of the things I sort of recognised. I'll share my story. Maybe that'll make more sense where my point's coming from, but effectively, one of the things I learned was that most people's purpose comes from their pain. Or if you want to put it another way, is that like purpose is born as pain. So we go through some sort of challenge or difficulty or something that is painful, and if we're not careful, it'll stay as pain. We do, though, have the ability and the choice to shift the meaning of that pain and make it a purpose. And I think that there's a lot of benefit to that, and you'll see how I suppose I'll expand on it more as the podcast goes on. But I think, like, feeling pain is extremely human. I think that's normal, and I know it's normal, but it's also very important to understand that if we consciously turn our pain to numbness, then we don't get to feel anything. So it's crucial that we learn to feel the pain that we're going through and figure out what is it telling us and what is it pointing towards. Is there a consistency in how this happens and what's going on, and pull it apart from there. But I'll share the story with you from my end anyway. So, as some of you may know, I've got a business here in Canberra called Functional Fitness Australia. I started it as myself, and it was called Funk Fitness Australia. It was just sole trader, myself and 6 clients. And we've, over the last 7 years, grown a lot and sort of changed our position and continually evolved our message. But for a long time, I would explain to people who our perfect client is, or our target market. And to give you an idea, I think our perfect client would be a 40-year-old mother of 2 that has disposable income and is in a relationship and is somewhat social, right? And for a whole bunch of reasons. But I explained that like multiple times to people, multiple times. And then it took me a long time to realize that, as I've mentioned in many podcasts before, like, I grew up around domestic violence. I grew up around alcoholism, not my whole youth, but a decent chunk of my development in early teens, especially from about 10 onwards. And what I learnt was that I actually built my business for my mum. Now, this is weird, right? Now, some people are like, "Oh, dude, come on." I know I've spoken to this about some people, not so much sharing is sort of in a depth of me, but like finding it interesting. So I share it because I guess I know people who have not made it in their given sport, so they've helped people be able to prehab and become a soft tissue therapist. And I've known people that have lost a parent, and so they go into helping people be able to have mobility for longer periods of life. So it's interesting. And so I sort of looked at it, I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense because my mum's not 40. She's 60 now. And she had 4 kids, not 2. And she works in a hardware store. So that doesn't make any sense. It's 40-year-old mother of 2. But what I actually realized when I looked at when was mum 40, and it was when we lived down the coast, when we first moved down there was only me and one of my sisters. There's only 2 kids. We had disposable income and she was in a relationship. And it kind of dawned on me that I've created a facility to help 40-year-old women be strong enough to be able to deal with things such as domestic violence and the rest of that sort of stuff. And it was sort of like, it fucking shook me big time. I realized that this pain that I had as a kid, I remember being a 10-year-old boy just standing there watching and not being able to do anything. And and so having that realization that later on I subconsciously turned this pain of mine into some sort of purpose was like, wow, okay, now that I know this, I can do so much more with it. And this is one of the reasons why you'll hear me talk a lot about men's roles and the masculine role, and definitely not calling for the weakness of men. We need to actually have strength in men. Men need to get stronger, and of course women as well, 100%. There's both sides to that conversation, and they're both equally as important, and it's actually the same outcome. But my whole point to this story is going, you likely have some pain, something that you maybe are conscious to, or maybe you just pushed aside as normal, or you repressed it or whatever. and that's likely dictating some sort of purpose in your life. And maybe that purpose is something that you're not acting on it right now, but something that you really care about, that maybe you trigger some sort of emotions when you see something about it on social media or something like that. But the thing about it is that the pain we experience, we have the ability to make meaning of that pain, and really dig deep and get something and make the world a better place because of that, right? And I think I remember having a conversation with some guys in Salt Lake City last year, and I told them, I go, well, the goal is for me is to, remove all preventable mental health issues. And they kind of like, yeah, okay, it's kind of a bit, I get it. But later on I learned that it was actually, it's to end unnecessary suffering, like that's it. End unnecessary. There's some suffering that I think is so necessary, because also, and this is something that I learned, I used to think that suffering was what the weak did, and then later on in life I learned that suffering was what the weak avoided, right? But the key thing though is that you have to be able to give your suffering meaning. You have to give it meaning, and if you don't, you will just give meaning to it regardless, but it'll be subconscious. It'll potentially come out as a victim related, and it's not to say that you haven't been a victim of something. The thing about it though is that you have an opportunity to use your pain for something that can fuel this, can just inch this world forward to a better place. And even though I really do think we live in the best times have ever been, I mean, really, you flick a switch, the lights are on, there's food in the fridge, electricity, sanitation, we have opportunities for learning everywhere. The times we live in are literally the best ever, statistically and everything. And so what I'm really getting at with this is like, find out what your pain is, move towards it, understand it, and then learn how to make the world a better place because of it. Right, not a worse place, because if you ignore your pain, if you let it sit there, it'll manifest, it will come up as a shadow. It 100% will. And this is the people that grew up around aggression, so they'll never be aggressive, but they're sarcastic and passive aggressive, right? It's like what you hate you have, and until you turn to see that, and I say turn because often our shadow is behind us, metaphorically. But we have to be able to stop looking at the light and look in the shadows to see the parts of us that we have tried to reject, but we can't, because they're parts of us, and our pain sits in here. And so when we can move towards that and integrate that, that's when we can make the world a better place. And we have that power, but we have to do it individually. Right, we have to look in, we have to be able to make that decision ourselves. And sure, 100%, I think it's so crucial to then, of course, find the right support people around you to help you move towards making this place better for everyone. 100%. You got to look around and go, are these people actually going to be somebody that's going to be helping me develop and move forward? I mean, I had a conversation in the Mood Prep online group with one of our, she's actually a fantastic client of mine here at the gym as well, but she mentioned that she knows someone close to her that is critical and negative about her own development. It's like, there are going to be people like this if you're lucky. If you're not lucky, you won't have anything, and you won't have anything to press against, right? That's not luck. That's misfortune. Having to have difficult conversations and realize that not everyone's going to be in your corner is fortunate, because then you get to understand the spectrum of everything and that entails, as opposed to this cruisy on slippery slide to fucking endorphins. It doesn't work like that. You've got to be able to move through the hard stuff. So my plea to you is to move towards your pain, understand it, get the right support if you need to, and make sure that you can turn that pain into purpose so you can actually live a fulfilled life. If you repress it, it'll show up and you'll become what you hate. Team, heavy shit, I know, but it's the way I live, it's the way I love it. I hope you guys have a fantastic day today. If you found this podcast beneficial, it would mean the world to me if you share it with someone else that you think would also find it beneficial. And if you haven't already, check out Mood Prep online. It'll be in the description of this podcast as well, or you just go to davenixon.com.au/memberships. I think it might be under the Human Movement, but you'll see it there anyway. That gives you access to the Mood Prep group, where we've got everything from monthly Q&As to we're starting up a book club this month, as well as other special content from my seminars and everything as well. So jump in, join the conversation. Otherwise, team, that's it. Until tomorrow, peace and pizza, kick today in the dick. slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
To be everything at once, be unblinded, be